Hi folks, this is Rob Makalek with MasterMine Software. This is a recorded introduction to MasterMine for GoldMine. First, who needs MasterMine and why, and then how it works. So to start with a quick overview of what MasterMine itself is. So MasterMine is a set of management tools for GoldMine. It includes a whole set of capabilities that you really need if you're going to be managing GoldMine. And when I say managing, I don't mean necessarily the GoldMine administrator, but really anybody who is operating within the GoldMine environment. It provides a very deep level of reporting, and in some ways an unusual kind of reporting that is very user-friendly, as I'll demonstrate here. It also adds a level of data analysis. Some people call it business intelligence, some people call it analysis. It's essentially the ability to really dig into the information that's contained in GoldMine and make use of the data, not just simply look at it or know what's in there. And then the third level of tools that MasterMine provides is data management, the ability to actually manipulate the data that's in GoldMine from inside the MasterMine/Excel environment. So I want to talk briefly about different kinds of users first before we go into the actual product itself, to think about this a little bit, because as I'm sure you know, reporting and data management, all these things that we just talked about, are not just simply the province of a single person within any organization that uses GoldMine. There are, in each different department, logical and very important uses for the ability to really get at GoldMine data. So just for example, in sales management, either the sales manager or the sales administrator or even the salespeople themselves need to be able to manage activity flow. Of course, that's what you're using GoldMine for. You're actually tracking what happens for a given sale or lead through your sales system, but you don't really have great ways from the top view to be able to manage the whole flow of multiple activities through GoldMine. But a sales manager really needs to be able to do that for fairly obvious reasons. You need to be able to know what your people are doing in order to manage them, and not just in terms of knowing some dollar amount about what they predict they're going to bring in next month, but actually knowing what are they doing on a day-to-day basis. Now, you may not track in your GoldMine every single phone call that everybody makes, although one might argue that you could and maybe should, or every appointment or every other activity that they do. But if you want to know, has there been any activity at all with our top set of prospects or our top set of clients, then you're going to need to be able to get at that information and, as I say, turn it into really useful activity-oriented knowledge. So the rest of these are also fairly obvious if you are a sales manager. You need to be able to forecast, so take that GoldMine information that's there related to sales that sales reps are following up on, and do an overall system-wide or company-wide forecast. And of course, you need that to be accurate, and you need to be able to identify the places where it's inaccurate, because guaranteed the first time you look at it will be inaccurate, and really be able to drill in and make your forecast conform with your rules for how forecasting is supposed to be done so that you can plan your business. Managing unworked leads, of course, is a fairly obvious thing in sales management. You need to be able to find those leads that have been sitting out there that haven't been followed up on and quickly bring them up to the front. And then finally, as far as directing and motivating the sales reps, again, you can do this through knowledge, or you can do it through guesswork, and I would make an argument that knowledge is better. A couple of other areas I'll quickly cover. Office and business management. Doing reports is important, and every organization that has GoldMine probably has a couple of reports that they use, but MasterMine really makes it possible to do on-the-fly reports, to be able to get an answer based on whatever question comes up on a day-to-day basis. It should not be something that requires a trip out to the IT department every time you simply need to get an answer out of GoldMine. Now, MasterMine also makes it easy to do charts and displays. If you're using the GoldMine built-in dashboard, you know that that's really useful, but this is a much more flexible and user-friendly and user-directed kind of a way of doing that same thing, but that just goes way beyond what you can do with built-in GoldMine. Of course, this is a way to integrate GoldMine really with Excel in a very close way that you will see here in just a moment. And finally, data cleanup, again, is an issue in every organization. Either you just sort of let your data experience entropy over the months and years, or you have, as part of your process for working with GoldMine, to really manage the quality of your GoldMine data. And that can be done centrally by a single individual, or it can be done by a small set of people who clean up their own sets. Even better is, with tools that MasterMine provides, some ways that every individual can be responsible for the quality of the GoldMine data. You can not only see what's not correct in your data, in your reports, you can actually have the users do something about it very conveniently so that little by little your database gets better instead of little by little your database deteriorating into uselessness. GoldMine administration. This is the last area here that I'm going to look at, but again, I just want to point out MasterMine is a set of tools not just for a single user, for example, your GoldMine administrator or your sales manager or your office administrator. It's there for everybody. You buy it pretty inexpensively for additional users after your first one. Think of it as a way for the GoldMine administrator to help users get their own reports rather than have to go to the GoldMine administrator all the time to write reports for them, which is an involved process and usually a very frustrating one because the GoldMine administrator doesn't know how the users need their information. The users do. Well, if they've also got the tools and the capability to bring that information together, it's that much better. Mass movement of information into and out of GoldMine is something that every organization struggles with. MasterMine makes that very easy. If you ever import information into GoldMine and find that you haven't put the information in the right place, haven't put one field in the right place, haven't done something correctly with one of the fields, once that information is in GoldMine, now you're kind of stuck with a one-by-one way of dealing with that information. MasterMine actually makes it easy to correct that. And then, of course, we can talk about quality checking and improvement. In other words, the GoldMine administrator presumably has an overall responsibility for the quality of the GoldMine data. MasterMine, again, makes that very easy, but even more importantly, as I mentioned before, to be able to push out that capability to the end users when they see information that's not correct to go out in GoldMine and fix it quickly, even across a large number of records or a whole set of records that they may have updated erroneously themselves. So a quick look at MasterMine features, and then we will jump right into the MasterMine product itself. The key things that I want you to notice as we go through this data is that it really only takes a few seconds, not minutes, not hours, not a lot of meetings, not a lot of work in a design screen. It actually just takes a few seconds from knowing what you want in GoldMine to actually getting the information in front of you. And even more importantly, whatever reports you do create in MasterMine are actually very flexible. So end users, not just the person who created the report, but actual end users can change all of the settings, move all of the fields, do all of the things that allow you to take a report that approximates what you need and actually make it be what you need. Again, you'll see that here in just a moment. MasterMine is very deeply integrated with GoldMine, so not only do you have reports, you also have, as I mentioned, the opportunity to access GoldMine data in a number of different ways. We'll talk about that. There is, of course, mass updating with a whole set of data inside an Excel workbook. Update it using just regular Excel processes and push that information over to GoldMine. That's an optional thing, by the way. It's not something that you want every user to have, that mass updating capability, but that's certainly something that somebody in your organization needs to have, so they need to know about MasterMine. Ultimately, what it all comes down to is user access and control of GoldMine. So let's get into GoldMine here and actually take a look at what a MasterMine report looks like. So this is a little demo database of GoldMine. It contains slightly over 300 records. Your own database of GoldMine probably has tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of records. The more data you have, the more useful MasterMine is going to be for you because you just simply need to mass manage, not just be at the mercy of your database. This is the MasterMine dialog for actually creating a new report. And as you can see, things are labeled inside of MasterMine to match the way they are in GoldMine. That's that deep GoldMine integration that I mentioned. Making a report from main contact information or main and additional contacts is very easy. You just check on boxes. I'm actually going to do a report here on pending sales. In other words, it's going to be a forecast report out of a GoldMine database. But note that it's really easy to do a report on any of the activities that are tracked in GoldMine. Could be calls and appointments, could be completed calls and appointments, or pending ones, could be a combination of the two if you check both boxes. And of course you can get at any of the information that's in the lower tabs of GoldMine as well. Details, opportunities, projects. Obviously pending in history, we're looking at the pending in history tabs. Anything that you work with in GoldMine is very easy to extract out into reports. So I'm going to do a report of pending sales, as I mentioned. The work that I had to do that was basically run the create dialog, check pending, check sale, check on whatever fields I want to include. And as you can see, because I chose pending sales, in context, we've got the amounts for the sales, already by default checked on, plus some other information at the contact level, the actual contact and company fields. But as you can see, everything else that's associated with pending sales as well as at the contact level are all available here. All the fields that are in GoldMine can be included just by checking them on. Very simple to do that. I just checked on a few sample fields, and I'll hit the Finish button. And literally, that's all I'm going to need to be able to do to get that information out of GoldMine and in front of me at my fingertips where I can start working with it. So it has created a report for me. Now, obviously, it's going to be a report that has not been formatted or organized in any particular way, or in the particular way that I might eventually want to use it, but it is organized into this default format. In this case, since I chose forecast sales, I start with a default layout that looks like a forecast sale report. Year by year, month by month, these are the number of forecast sale records in my database with the number of units in there, because you know when you do a forecast in GoldMine, you do not only a record, you say how many units and at what price, so you get a potential amount. You also set a probability in GoldMine. So here we apply the probability against the number of sales, the number of units, and again the dollar amounts. Now this is just a starting point, of course. This is meant to be a very simple kind of a starting point that allows you to organize your report very quickly into whatever is useful for you at the moment. So just taking, for example, this report, in this case, I might really want to isolate just my current March 2003 sales, which is at the moment just this row, and I want to eliminate all the rest of what I'm looking at here. So in order to do that, maybe I'll just filter down on my year 2013 and my month of March, and I'll just move these up to the top and do that. So moving it to the top allows me to filter. Now notice I'm actually moving parts around inside this report as I'm working with it. That's a capability that you simply don't have in a traditional report writer, but which you have in spades in MasterMine, so that you can go ahead and answer those further questions that you have. So I'm going to, as I said, focus on 2013. Just in March, here are my sales in summary of who I'm going to be selling to. Let's just include the company names of who we're actually going to sell to. A fairly obvious, different way of wanting to break down your leads. Maybe I want to have them categorized by account manager within those companies. So here's the actual person who's going to do the sales and the companies that they plan to sell to. This is just a couple of examples of the control that you have over how you display what it is that you're looking at. Each number inside the MasterMine report actually has the full data behind it. As I mentioned before, it is fully integrated back with GoldMine. So if I double-click on any one of these numbers, I see that I've got actually 2 sales forecast to happen with Chrysler Mechanical Express. If I double-click on the 2 here, I'm going to get a new sheet that actually shows me the detail for those 2 sales, all of the fields that I had checked on when I created this report initially. And in fact, I can link this back to GoldMine. So if I double-click here on Chrysler Mechanical Express, it pops over to GoldMine and brings up that record for me. Or alternatively, I might even say, let's not only pop up that record, but let's actually pull up the sale record itself on the GoldMine side so I can actually make a change to it. Again, as I mentioned, end users have the access back to GoldMine to quickly fix information that they see that's not correct in GoldMine, or just to look deeper into it and actually take some action that is a consequence of what they learn in the report. So I'll switch back over to Excel. So any report that you create that's similar to this one, you can simply save and make available. MasterMine has actually extensive tools inside of Excel that make it easier to work with these pivot tables. We provide basic training together at the time that you buy it. We also provide fuller training as you're actually using it. You have the option of buying additional layers of training or actually having us write reports for you through online connections. So it's actually very easy to get what you're after. Not only is it easy, but it's actually kind of fun and efficient, because when we work together to lay out a report for you, you can just simply say, well, I like it laid out this way, or give it to me laid out another way. Don't tell me the detail of the companies that we're going to sell to, but give me a breakdown by the product that we're actually planning to sell to those people. You can have that sort of flexibility. You can also clone, by the way. So just one of the tools that we have inside of MasterMine is make a clone of that report so that I actually, in this case, might have 2 different views of the same information. And you see, I've just made a second report from the first one in a matter of a couple of seconds that in any sort of a traditional reporting environment you would have had to go back to a design screen and redesign the report to include a different field in the same location. Here it's just a matter of drag, drop, you're done. Once you create a report like this, as I mentioned, you simply save it. So I've saved that report, and then you can actually share it either to other users within GoldMine. We've actually got a share button here that goes out and reads GoldMine and finds your other GoldMine users so that you can specify who you want it to deploy this report to. Or you can deploy it to yourself so that you wind up with an easy, short set of your standard reports that you come back to and back to again in order to do what you're going to do. Each one of these is, by the way, because they're so easily modified and so easily shared, each report is in effect a template. So don't think that even the steps that I've taken up until now to create this report is something that you have to do a number of times. You can do it one time to get your forecast information into Excel, into a workable form, and from there just branch off and do different variations on this same view of your forecast. In this case, I'm not going to actually hit the button to push this report out into GoldMine, but if I show you over here on the GoldMine side, this is the effect of deploying reports to different users. You can actually make a set of reports. In this case, I've got a set of call reports out here, or I might do a set of sales reports. Every one of these is a report that's easily brought up. So, for example, I've already created a sales forecast and I've deployed it to, in this case, let's say it's my sales manager. So when he needs to look at or use this report, he just comes out to his sales forecast menu over here in GoldMine and click Sales Forecast, and that report will just pop right up. Now, in this case, I've got my Create dialog up still. So let's try that again. Open up my Sales Forecast report. So literally, as an end user of the reports, I just click once and it pops open, ready to work with. Now, this is very similar to the report that I made a few moments ago here, but I've got some variations on this one. I've got a summary that shows me my dollar sales by user ID, so I've got them actually broken out by who's actually going to bring in these sales, and by product. In fact, these are the actual product lines, or the reference lines that are in the sale record in GoldMine, and I've actually grouped them together for the purposes of reporting here. So I've got my gadgets and my widgets grouped together. So even inside my MasterMine report, this dynamism is still useful because as the sales manager, I may not be interested in right at this moment in one or another product, but I want to be able to see them grouped together. I want to see what's our overall gadget sales look like for March of 2013, or overall everything that's in there. By the way, if I wanted to just say March 2013, I think it's pretty clear. I have that option of filtering on whatever information I have in my report. I'll show you a couple of other examples. Here's a current month detail report. In this case, we chose to include all the detail for these individual sales in March 2013, but we're breaking them out in two different columns between those that have a probability greater than 50% and those less than 50%. Here's another version, except it's got a graph with it, of user ID by gadgets and widgets. Again, my two product groups that I made. And I can see my sales reps next to each other graphed out. Making a graph from this table, by the way, is really easy. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and destroy this graph just so I can show you how easily you can go in here. Let's go to make a chart, choose my type of chart. It's actually already chosen there. Say OK. And here's that same chart that I looked at. The only difference is I had it formatted a little bit differently before. I chose this nice Excel 3D format for it. And basically that's it. In a few seconds, a table like this, a simple table, becomes a chart that you again have that full range of Excel functionality to be able to do charting with. Here's another example of same kind of report. I just wanted to sort of illustrate that you can do, let's say, 5 different variations of this same report, one for each industry, and each of those 5 different variations would be another tab in the same workbook, and making that report from your main one is, again, a matter of seconds, not hours, not days, not really even any deep amount of work to do. So I showed you the drilling back into GoldMine to go to an individual record before. There's one other way that I want to show you this, and that is actually dealing with the data in a mass way inside of Excel. So I want to go to this last one here. This is just another report here by probabilities. I'm going to take our records that have a 90% probability of sale, and I don't really know how, oh, actually I can see how many of them there are. There are actually 90 of them, 90 forecast sales in my database that are at the 90% level. if I double click on either the 90 or on the grand total for this, as I showed you before, I will actually see all of the detail behind those sales, right? So this is a spreadsheet, a more traditional kind of a spreadsheet that you might expect to see in Excel, except that it also has some links to GoldMine, some functionality behind it. So from here, what I want to illustrate is not only can you see all of this detail, but you can actually manipulate it. You can change it in GoldMine. Again, this is not a capability you want every user on your system to have, but you probably do want your individual users to have the ability to drill back to a single record and make a change, because they could have done that in GoldMine anyway, although it would have taken them a little longer to switch over to GoldMine, type in the name influential machinery to pull up the record in GoldMine, where here with MasterMine, double-clicking just pops the record up. But the next level that I want to show you here is actually our optional Updater capability, which again you apply only to select users. Let's say I wanted to go in here and change, let's say, the activity code on a set of my forecast sales. In this case, I'm not going to update all of them, but I'm going to say, oh, I'm going to change this one to X and that one to Y, just based on whatever I happen to know about my forecast, about this set of sales that are forecast. Or maybe I want to change the dates to a month later because I really don't think these guys are going to sell this month. I think they're going to change later. Or I want to change the user ID to something else. Whatever the change needs to be, you actually have this capability with Updater. In this way, you can modify, in this case I could have modified 23 forecast sale records all in one go. And I could do it again very simply with a lot of control. It runs through the GoldMine application programming interface called API, so that the GoldMine housekeeping rules are all met. Nothing about this, as long as you follow the basic rules here, is going to break any of GoldMine's rules. It's just a really easy way to make it possible to update dozens or hundreds or even thousands of GoldMine records very quickly, so that you can clean up a database or manage, in this case, a forecast with a number of different users, and do that in a comfortable Excel environment where you're looking across a lot of different records at once, but with that ability to update GoldMine so that GoldMine is correct as well as your reports are. Just to sort of finish this process, if I were going to update my activity codes in GoldMine, I would choose the target field, the activity code field on GoldMine, to receive the information from this initiating field on the MasterMine side. I can do a test run, by the way, so I can see a before and after listing. This happens very quickly. So as you see, it creates a log sheet. So I've got my original value, the updated value that I would be changing these to, and if I chose to go ahead and push my changes over into GoldMine, based on what I'm looking at there, I can go ahead and finalize those changes, and I've just updated 23 activity code values in 23 different records in GoldMine. If I actually double-click and go over to the record on the pending tab in the record here, you can see that I changed the value here from A or B to X, but I feel pretty safe about this because this also has an undo feature. So if I make a mistake, I make a bunch of changes and I really want to put them back, we even have that level of protection in here that allows you to put those back to A, or in this case to their original values. So if I again double click, you can see that there's an A in that field and not the X. So that is a quick introduction to MasterMine. I'm going to switch back and just summarize and wrap up here in the PowerPoint here. So this again is the summary of features of what's in MasterMine. So now that you've actually seen MasterMine, think about the fact that you can create these reports in just a few seconds, how easy it is to do, how flexible and reusable each report is and shareable. The fact that we've got this deep GoldMine integration that really is exclusive as far as GoldMine using organizations are concerned, and then that mass updating feature that really is kind of the capper and makes it a fairly obvious add-on that just about anybody who has GoldMine really needs to have if you want to have data that is in the long run going to be useful. So I'll just go to my just a quick conversation about how we support MasterMine. So as a user, you may choose self-service or you may choose full service, and that's entirely up to you. When you get MasterMine, typically most organizations fall sort of half and half into both groups. Those that really want to do self-service, MasterMine has a lot of tools built into Excel that make it easy to manipulate the pivot table, learn how to use it, share reports with other users. There's also a lot of users who only occasionally ever get into MasterMine, or they use it to build a couple of reports, and those are their go-to reports that they go to all the time, and they kind of lose that sense of how to build them. Or they may never have built them themselves at all. They may have had somebody else build them for them, and they just are used to working with them that way. That's fine too, because in addition to the built-in ways to easily build them yourself, including, by the way, the 140 templates that are built in, we provide online support. So we can get on GoToMeeting with you and help you build reports, either to actually build them for you or to help sort of stand behind you and coach you and do the reports yourself along the way. And we provide training, which is really all about teaching you how to do it by yourself when you're off on your own. Usually our users opt for something in between, where they have online support available but also want to do their own reports themselves. You just essentially learn while doing. That's probably the most common way that MasterMine gets used. So here's what it takes to get started with MasterMine. If you've looked on our website, you've probably seen we do post our pricing there. We make it easy to get started. We'd probably suggest don't just buy the single seat, because you can actually get a package for the same price that gets you a little farther along the way. You get a little bit of support in getting started. You get an extra share seat with it for $9.95. And our packages do go up to $49.95 for full-on enterprise-wide MasterMine application. You get a free trial of the software that you can just download from our website and play with for several days. We very strongly encourage you that if you do download it, don't just try to go on your own. Let us get online together with you. It's free, and we go through GoToMeeting to help you work through those first few drags and drops so you get a sense of how MasterMine is supposed to work for you. We do, as I mentioned, provide online training in an ongoing way that's paid. We provide ongoing support for you as well as you work with MasterMine. There is, by the way, when you get MasterMine maintenance, which is optional after the first year, you do have ongoing technical support. You get free upgrades of the software when you're on maintenance. The only thing that you don't get is just unlimited writing of reports for you. That obviously is something that has to be done on a paid basis. And then finally, you have a 30-day guarantee. So if you buy MasterMine and within 30 days you decide, if you've worked with us and gotten your start with it and really gotten going with it, and you decide that you don't want to start with MasterMine in 14 years, I don't recall anybody ever actually exercising the guarantee, but we stand behind it is the point. So if you'd like to get started with MasterMine, I want to encourage you, go ahead right away, call us on our toll-free number. If you're already using MasterMine and you want to just get some refresher training on how to work with it, or online support to actually build some reports or dig into your GoldMine data or clean up your data, any of those things, go ahead and call our toll-free number there and get started right away.